Breaking, Iran's Revolutionary Guard posted a message this week that every American needs to read carefully. It said controlling the Strait of Hormuz and maintaining the shadow of its deterrent effects over America and the White House's supporters in the region is the definitive strategy of Islamic Iran. Not a temporary tactic, not a negotiating chip, a definitive strategy. And this week, Iran's foreign minister flew to St. Petersburg, Russia, sat across from Vladimir Putin, and received something that no American ally, no Pakistani mediator, no Omani sultan has received in 60 days of war. Putin publicly pledged that Russia will do everything that serves Iran's interests so that peace can be achieved as soon as possible. He praised the Iranian people for courageously and heroically fighting for their sovereignty. He told Araghchi, and he said this on camera for the entire world to see, Russia, just like Iran, intends to continue our strategic relationship. This is not a diplomatic courtesy. This is Vladimir Putin, the man America has sanctioned, isolated, and called a war criminal, publicly backing Iran in its standoff with the United States. Oil is at 1/10. The strait is closed, and now Putin is Iran's messenger. What that means for America, for the war, and for every family paying $4 at the pump, that is what this video is about. Let me give you the full sequence of Araghchi's diplomatic tour this week because the order in which he traveled reveals exactly what Iran is building and who Iran is counting on. On Saturday, April 25th, Araghchi arrived in Islamabad, Pakistan for consultations with Pakistani mediators. He shared Iran's red lines with Pakistan, nuclear issues, and the Strait of Hormuz to be conveyed to the Americans. He described the discussions as very productive. He left. He came back on Sunday. He gave Pakistan Iran's formal written messages addressed to the U.S. He then departed Pakistan on Sunday night. He flew to Muscat, Oman, the only Arab nation with diplomatic relations with both Iran and America, where he met Sultan Haitham bin Tariq and the Omani foreign minister. He said the two countries reached some agreements in their talks focused on the strait. He then flew to Moscow. He met Vladimir Putin on Monday at the Boris Yeltsin Presidential Library in St. Petersburg. And while he was sitting with Putin, Iran submitted a new peace proposal to the United States. The sequencing is deliberate. Pakistan carries the messages. Oman manages the Hormuz geography. Russia provides the strategic backing. This is not improvised diplomacy. This is a coordinated three-pillar strategy. Now, let me give you Putin's exact words because they are more significant than any headline has captured. Putin told Araghchi, "We see how courageously and heroically the Iranian people are fighting for their independence and sovereignty." He then said, "For our part, we will do everything that serves your interests, the interests of all the people of the region, so that peace can be achieved as soon as possible." He added, Russia, just like Iran, intends to continue our strategic relationship. Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov simultaneously met Iran's Deputy Defense Minister and said Russia supports resolving the conflict exclusively through diplomatic means, backs Iran's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and is ready to do everything possible to help resolve the situation. Now, let me translate what this means in plain language. Putin is telling Iran, we are with you. We are not neutral. We are not a mediator. We are your strategic partner, and we will do everything that serves your interests. Russia's presidential aide, Yuri Ushakov, said after the meeting that Moscow will review signals from Iran, the U.S., and Israel, and then present its own views. That means Russia is now positioning itself not just as Iran's backer, but as a potential broker, inserting itself into the negotiating architecture that until now has been dominated by Pakistan and Oman. Share this video right now because the Russia angle of this war is the most underreported story of the past 60 days. Your channel covered it first when we reported on Russia training Iran's military. Now, Russia is publicly backing Iran at the highest level. Share it. Subscribe with notifications on. Stay with me. Analysts are reading between the lines of the hurried Araghchi-Putin meeting, and they are pointing to something specific. Andrei Zeltin, a senior lecturer at the HSE School of Oriental Studies in Russia, told Russian media Vedomosti that Araghchi's visit is likely connected to Iran's new proposals to the U.S. regarding the priority of topics in negotiations. He said this suggests that both Tehran and Washington are currently seeking a way out of the confrontation and complete stalemate of the war, but each wants to portray it as a victory. And here is the crucial part of his analysis. If Trump accepts Tehran's new proposals, he could explain his victory by saying the Strait of Hormuz remains open, ignoring the reason it was closed. In other words, Russia is being brought in to help construct the face-saving architecture that allows both Trump and Iran to claim they won. Iran gets Hormuz recognized as a pressure card it can use forever. Trump gets to say he reopened global shipping. Neither side admits they gave up anything, and Russia gets credit for brokering the solution, restoring its global diplomatic relevance after years of post-Ukraine isolation. This is not just about Iran and America. This is about Putin using this war to rehabilitate Russia's standing as an indispensable world power. The single most important statement Iran made this week was not in Islamabad or Moscow. It was on Sunday when Iranian officials warned that the Strait of Hormuz will under no circumstances return to its previous state. Archior and were Read that sentence one more time. Under no circumstances previous state. Before the war, 130 to 160 ships transited the strait every day. 20% of the world's oil, 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas, zero tolls, zero Iranian approval required. That is the previous state Iran says will never return. Iran's Revolutionary Guard reinforced this on their official Telegram channel by calling Hormuz control a definitive strategy, not a bargaining position, a strategy. And Iran's new peace proposal, as reported by the Associated Press, CNN, and the Washington Post, proposes reopening the strait in exchange for ending the U.S. naval blockade, but explicitly decouples Hormuz from nuclear negotiations, which would be postponed to later talks. This means that even in Iran's best-case scenario, the scenario it is offering, the nuclear question remains unresolved. Iran retains the precedent that it can close Hormuz, and the threat of future closure remains permanently over the global economy. Let me now break down exactly what Iran's new proposal says, because it is more sophisticated than the headlines suggest. According to the Associated Press, CNN, and Washington Post, the proposal has two tracks. Track 1, Iran reopens the Strait of Hormuz. America ends its naval blockade of Iranian ports. Both sides returned to the status quo before the war began on February 28th. Track 2, nuclear negotiations begin separately at a later date on a separate track with no deadline and no preconditions stated. On the surface, this sounds reasonable, but look at what Iran is asking America to give up. America's entire leverage over Iran's nuclear program, which Rubio called the reason we are in this in the first place, is the blockade and the threat of resumed bombing. If America ends the blockade and Iran reopens Hormuz, America has given up its leverage. The bombs have already been dropped. The military campaign is paused. The blockade is the last tool of pressure. Iran is asking America to release that tool before nuclear talks even begin. Israeli security expert Daneil said it directly to CNN, "I have serious doubts the U.S. will accept this offer because then the U.S. will lose leverage on the nuclear file." Trump's sources confirmed to CNN he is unlikely to accept, and Rubio said, while calling it better than expected, that the nuclear question is the reason why we are in this in the first place, and that any deal must block Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Two red lines, zero overlap, same decide to disengage and return to war. 3 aircraft carriers are in the region. The ceasefire technically holds, but both sides are violating it. Lebanon is burning. Israel's defense minister is publicly waiting for a green light from Washington to resume the war against Iran. And Trump told reporters, "Do not rush me." The Oman dimension of Araghchi's tour deserves its own explanation because most coverage is missing why Muscat matters. Oman is the only country with territory on both sides of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's coast is the northern shore. Oman's Musandam Peninsula forms the southern shore. The narrowest point of the strait, just 21 miles wide, has Iranian coast on one side, is fighting Iran. China is supplying Iran through secret routes. Russia is publicly backing Iran at the presidential level and offering to broker a deal that lets both sides claim victory. This is no longer a war between America and Iran. This is a great power confrontation playing out in the Strait of Hormuz. Will you make the people around you understand the full scope of what is happening? Will you speak out? Iran says Hormuz will never go back to before. Putin says Russia will do everything that serves Iran's interests. Oil is at $110, and America's national security team is in a meeting room in the White House trying to figure out what to do next. I will see you in the next one.